Hi, I'm Nisha DeGaring, host of Good Things Utah, and I've been a longtime supporter of Todd's Beliefcast. I hope you find inspiration in the courageous stories shared by the amazing people Todd features on his show. The guests serve as shoulders for us to stand on, allowing us to see a little further and cultivate belief in oneself. Remember, you have the dignity and power to change. I encourage you to keep striving and believing in yourself. Enjoy today's podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Todd Sylvester with the Todd Inspires Beliefcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I can't thank you enough for your support. It means the world to me. I need to give a shout out to my sponsors, Swapp and Associates, Wasatch Recovery, Thread Wallets, Maury Nutrition, and I just got a couple new ones, which is fantastic. Gab, which is a Gab wireless. It's to help kids be safe online, and then also Miki Couture blankets, which is most amazing, most comfortable blankets you could ever imagine. And then also the music you heard at the beginning, at the end of this podcast, is by my good friend Paul Cardall. He's an amazing individual who allowed me to use his music, and so we're grateful. He's a Grammy Award winner, and we're just really grateful to have his support. And then everyone listening right now, thank you for tuning in and supporting me and believing in me. And I know it's really not necessarily about me. It's always about these amazing guests that I bring on. And today's going to be no different. You guys are in for a treat. We're going to laugh. We're going to cry. We're going to tug on your heartstrings. We're going to show you that you can overcome difficult things and still have a smile on your face. And I've got two people on that are living proof of that. So today we have Valen Keefer and Cristen Wathen. Did I say that correctly?
Did. Good job. I'm impressed.
Thank you. Valen, by the way, has been on my show before. Many of you will probably remember her amazing story. It's been a while, but Valen she's just the salt of the earth, man. Just exudes brightness and positivity, and it just blows my mind. And I even had her come speak to my clients here at Wasatch Recovery, which was fantastic. And that was one of my, bucket list, to have her be able to talk to these people who are struggling with addiction. So that was fantastic. And then Cristen, I've got to know you a little bit, just obviously through Valen, and then just studying you and, looking up all the stuff about you. And you're obviously an amazing individual as well, doing great things. What's so cool about these two amazing individuals is they have a lot in common. They both have polycystic kidney disease, PKD, which we're going to learn a lot about today. They both had a kidney and liver transplant, which that in itself is a miracle. I mean, truly a miracle. Valen is a patient advocate. She's been an educator and for over 20 years. She loves helping people. Like I said, she really does make a difference in people's lives. She's a speaker, does all those kind of things. Cristen is a licensed counselor and an associate professor at Palo Alto University. She's a mental health advocate as well. And overall, these two are doing great things. And least of not which is they've created their own podcast called Unpacking the Gift of Life. And it's a fairly new podcast. And we're going to promote that, and we're going to send people your way. But I love that you guys are out there making a difference with what you guys have been through in your life. So thank you guys for joining me. I know that was long, but thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Todd. I appreciate that lovely introduction. We're excited to be here. It's great to see you again. Awesome way to start our day.
Yeah, great way. Absolutely. So Valen, why don't we start with you a little bit? Tell our listeners a little bit more about you and then kind of what you've been up to over the last couple of years since you've been on the show.
Absolutely. So my name is Valen Keefer. It's great to be with all of you today. I have been a patient since a child. So I've navigated basically my entire life with chronic illness and going through polycystic kidney disease and receiving a kidney transplant 22 years ago. I just celebrated my 22nd anniversary this month. So it's a big month for me. Wow. I call it my miracle month because also this month I celebrated 6 years post liver transplant too. And really going through the health challenges shaped what I do right now in my life and the perspective that I have on life. And I chose to take those challenges and turn them into something meaningful, which is being a patient advocate for our kidney and transplant community. It's been an incredible journey. Growing up, I didn't have really any great support outside of my parents, who were wonderful, but I didn't have resources or people to lean on or a visual representation of hope when I was headed into transplant as a teenager. And really, that's the core of why I've been doing this work for the past 20 years, is to create resources that I know would have been of great benefit for myself and to be that hope for others walking a similar path. So it's been an incredible journey now, really doing a lot of great work and partnerships with different companies and helping with clinical trials and really trying to bridge the gap between like industry and the perspectives of patients and what we go through. I feel like, there's been silos between industry and physicians and patients, and really trying to help gap those bridges and represent our community at large. And latest project is our podcast, which I'm really excited about. And I look forward to you guys getting to meet my friend Cristen.
Yeah, no, thank you, Valen, and congratulations on your Miracle Month and how far you've come. And again, you truly are an inspiration to so many, including myself. So thank you for being here and for sharing that. Cristen, a little background on you. Tell us a little bit more about you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, my name is Cristen Wathen, and I had a different experience from Valen. I did not grow up knowing that I had polycystic kidney disease. When I was a teenager, my mom was diagnosed, but with polycystic kidney disease, it was a mutation. It wasn't anything that had happened long-term in our family or that we had any information about. My parents chose not to be as transparent about it so I really didn't know what was going on, other than my mom was going to be okay, but she had something going on with her kidneys. When I was 20, yeah. So when I was 20, I had a car accident that was very serious, and I was taken to the hospital, given a CAT scan, and the CAT scan showed cysts on my kidneys. The doctors told my parents, the doctors told my parents at the time, we didn't have the Affordable Care Act, and so they asked for they said they would investigate it further, but we didn't get a diagnosis. So at that point, I was in my 20s, found out that, yes, I had it too, found out it was a genetic disease, lots of overwhelming emotions because I was in my early stage of college, and there was not a lot of support out there. I remember Googling, trying to find some information. I don't know if it probably wasn't called Googling back then, but the only thing that I found a couple of websites, and through the years, as I, kind of progressed and trying to find some support, I found Valen's blog. And Valen's blog was through the PKD Foundation, I believe, at the time. And I was like, oh my goodness, there's somebody else that's like me. Wow. She looks like she is around my age, and she's living a life that is, I thought I was catastrophizing that, would anybody want to be in a relationship with me if I have a genetic disease? Would all these, things that are just not accurate, but felt very real at the time. And so just seeing her and reading her was so uplifting and hopeful for me. My kidney disease obviously progressed, and I've spent the last year and a half recovering from my kidney and liver transplant, which has been a interesting, wonderful, horrible, challenging experience with a lot of support from my family and friends and from Valen. And I'm just, now kind of getting to where I feel back to normal, and am so thankful. And at the same time, I'm really cognizant of the mental health aspects that go into having a chronic disease, a genetic chronic disease, and also having a transplant. And I really want to support folks going through all types of things, but specifically in my experience as a therapist and a professor, specifically the normalization of how chronic illness can have an impact not only on our physical health, but on our spiritual, emotional, and health, and our overall wellness. And that's where I'm coming from today. I'm also a mom and went through all of this as a parent the past 8 years. And so it's been interesting to see that and to navigate that and to be strong for my little one.
Yeah. Wow. Thanks for sharing that, Kristen. Very well said, both of you. Again, it's just so inspiring that you guys are now advocating for other people who are struggling and going through the similar things as you. It's almost as if, I don't know if you guys have ever read the book. It's called The Inner Work by Matt and Ash. And there's a quote in there by a Hindu monk, and it says, "Your trials didn't come to punish you, but to awaken you." Mm. And when I think of you too, I mean, really, like, as hard as this has been, like you said, Kristen, the ups and the downs, it's been good, it's been horrible, it's been the worst, it's been the greatest, it's all these up and down things, but it's almost like it's awakened you to doing these things you're doing now, and including your podcast, which I think is so needed, because there's probably so many people like you, Kristen, who are like, am I alone in this? Mm-hmm. And so thank you on that. But so is that how you guys initially just met, was through the blog, through her blog?
Story, Valen. It's a really cool story, actually.
Super fun. So I didn't know it, but Kristen was reading my blog silently for years. And so she was a reader that I didn't know, which is fun when you do this advocacy work. You don't know who you're impacting. And I think that's the power of sharing your story, because anybody can be listening and it can be having a deep impact on them. And so after years of her reading my blog, when she learned that I was getting a liver transplant, she reached out about a month after I got my transplant, a really sweet message of wishing me well and sharing that she had been following my blog for years and the inspiration it was giving her. But little did we know that our paths had kind of crossed prior to that. When I was leading up to getting my liver transplant, I was really experiencing a rough time of getting an accurate diagnosis. And I was misdiagnosed, and I was really determined of that it was due to my PKD that I was having my liver issues. But I struggled trying to get those puzzle pieces together. But I went to a doctor, a hepatologist, and I said, do you have any other PKD patients going through a similar issue with their liver? And she's like, actually, I do have one patient. And I remember slapping my leg and going, I knew it, because it just gave me hope that my gut was telling me the right thing, that it was possible. It just gave me that hope and possibility. Well, then I got my liver transplant, and upon pathology of my native liver, it showed that I was correct, and that my liver issues were because of polycystic kidney disease. And it wound up that I did have the unique manifestation called Caroli's disease. And it wound up that Kristen and I, after we started to talk, we learned that we lived 2 hours from each other, that we shared the same hepatologist, and that Kristen was the patient that the doctor was referring to and had the same issue. And it gives me goosebumps saying it, because we were giving each other hope before we even knew it. She was that person out there that was the like, it's possible, I could be right type, giving hope. And then without me knowing it, I was giving her hope as well through my words and the advocacy that I was doing.
It was so cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Really fun. And then we've just continued to connect, slowly. And then like during the pandemic, we were in connection with each other every day, because we were really, really isolated due to our medical conditions, and just grew and talked about how much we wanted to combine both the emotional aspects, the mental health wellness pieces of transplant and chronic illness, with what's already being discussed. And we wanted to do it in an authentic way, and which is sometimes hard to find. You can get a lot of medical information, but you don't get a lot of the real honest stories about what it's like to go through. And so that was kind of our passion. And then Valen, she's with her experience as an advocate and her just knowledge, and was presented with the opportunity. And she was wonderful enough to say, hey, I got my friend Kristen over here, who's a mental health professional. And, that's kind of where it was born from.
Wow, that's a beautiful story. How cool is that? It was meant to be, right?
Yeah, no, I can't imagine there's got to be something there.
There's got to be. Well, what's funny too is, so Paul Cardall that I just mentioned, who does the music, he is a heart transplant recipient.
Oh, wow.
And that's how I initially found Valen online, because I don't know if it was part of the algorithm or something, but that's how I initially was able to reach out to Valen. And I think Valen's like, who's this dude reaching out to me? But because of what Paul had gone through, I was starting to get, through my feeds and stuff of people maybe going through similar things. And that's where I found Valen. So it's just funny how, things to start to connect and how we can all, get together and do these things.
For sure.
Sure. I believe there's total meaning that we cross paths with people for a reason. Even if we don't know, like at the immediate connection point, I totally agree. Yeah.
Now, I know this is probably a tough question to do this in a short span, but for someone listening to this right now and they have no idea what PKD even is, can we just give our listeners just a little background on what that is so they can have an understanding of what this is and what you've been going through?
Yeah, for sure. Polycystic kidney disease is a genetic disease. So I inherited it from my mother's side of the family, and we can trace it back 6 generations.
Okay.
And what happens with this disease is cysts form in the kidneys. They can grow to the size of footballs, and they deteriorate in function over time, and there's no cure. So it leads to the ultimately you wind up needing dialysis or transplantation for most individuals. And it's, even though you hear polycystic kidney disease and you think, oh, just kidneys, it's actually a disease that really has an impact over our entire body, in the sense of you can get aneurysms from it. It can impact your liver, like Kristen and I, diverticulitis. Some of the symptoms are high blood pressure. That's how I learned that I had it. That was the initial kind of trigger of going to the doctor and having really high blood pressure. You can get cyst bleeds, a lot of pain from it. And there's 2 different forms of it. There's recessive and dominant. So Kristen and I both have the dominant form, which normally appears later in life. And there's a recessive form, which is really aggressive and can happen. People can learn of that before they even give birth to their child, and can really have a devastating impact. That's kind of the gist. Kristen, you want to chime in?
I think I want to add that, like, sometimes I had a doctor tell me, like, if you're going to get a chronic illness, it's a really good one to have, which hits a little, I understand the philosophy around that, but it's kind of like just sitting around when you have the dominant version, sitting around and just waiting to see what happens, which is anxiety producing. And so it's great that some folks like myself, I, had, 20 years of kind of feeling like I was normal, but knowing like eventually this is going to happen. I don't know when, but soon. And for others, it's more like Valen's experience, where she had side effects and symptoms, throughout her life and early. So it's kind of like it's a disease that is getting more and more research behind it, but a lot of people don't know about it, and there's no cure. And so it's like transplant or dialysis when it gets to the end stage, which for a 20-year-old, or, I think, Valen, you said you were 10. It's a lot to hold.
Yeah, no, very well said. Thank you for, clearing that up for our listeners and stuff. And I think that's really helpful. So again, having a transplant, obviously, if you've never had one, we have no clue what that would even feel like or be like. This question's obviously for both of you, but maybe with Kristen, we'll start with you. Being a licensed counselor in the mental health area and stuff like that, how has this affected your mental health? I know it's a big question, but maybe, and not only how has it affected it, but also what have you done to help keep you guys, in this positive mindset, in this pushing forward mindset, and wanting to help other mindset? I mean, that's a lot there. I'm just curious how you guys do this.
One foot in front of the other. Well, I think I could start with it's just really been important for me to have support, and whether it's my partner, whether it's Valen, the support has been important. What does it do to your mental health? I think that depends. Like for me, it gave me a lot of anxiety, fear, worry about what's going to happen for my daughter. How am I going to explain it to her? when I feel, how do I trust, and how long is this wait going to be? What am I going to do when I get that phone call? Because if you don't know it, there's different types of transplants. And for mine, which was a deceased donor, it's kind of like you're waiting around, and then you get a phone call from a doctor. I was also, like, as a mental health professional, I was curious to find out that there wasn't a lot during the transplant evaluation process, which can take a long time. There, in my experience, there were social workers and folks there that were, evaluating to make sure you were able to take this on. But there wasn't a lot of, like, this might, trigger some depression or anxiety. And there just wasn't a lot of support for the mental aspects of it. So that was surprising. Yeah. After the transplant, I had what's called delayed graft function, which means the kidney did not work immediately. And that was extremely stressful in the hospital, thinking, I had all of this, I'm going to get this and it's going to happen. But then it was like, oh, and it might not work. And that was very scary and stressful. So I think for me, there was a lot of, stress. And as a professional, like, because I'm a counselor, like I noticed it and I was able to ask for it and say, hey, these anxiety, these obsessive thoughts are not normal. And I need to, is this because of the medication I'm on? Is this, so reach out. And one of the things that is something that I want to really emphasize is that a lot of folks won't know, that what, if they aren't, trained to recognize, they may not be able to reach out or to know how to reach out. And so that's really important to me. Also, when I was in the hospital, I watched a lot of, like, trash TV, things to make me laugh, to get my mind off of it. So I think stuff like that is important to, like, but I think ultimately, like, this is what I tell my daughter. Everybody in life has hard things, challenges. This is mom's challenge. And, I took it on that way. This is my challenge, or one of the many I'll probably have. But I have kind of some choices here. I can, really dig deep and recognize and be honest about how it's hard, but also have hope at the same time, or I can be really scared and which, is, I don't want to shame anybody for feeling scared. It's definitely scary. But like, I have a choice, and the days that I wanted to say, this is too much, I can't do it, that's when the support is really important. So I think, and just recognizing that I have a lot of privilege in having insurance and different things like that, and recognizing that is not the case for everybody in the world. And so just trying to do what I can do to make the experience as less draining and scary as possible is what I hope to do.
Well said.
Yes.
Valen?
My first thought was, when you asked the impact on us mentally, is I think the resilience of kids is amazing, because I went through all of this as a child. And when I look back and think of all that I went through, you're sort of like, how did you do that? How do kids do it? And they somehow do it and just bounce back. And I have the experience of technically a pediatric transplant, getting a transplant at 19. And then I got my second transplant as an adult at 35. So the mental impact at those ages were very different. Right. I had a different resilience as a child, and different viewpoint, and less worry of the gravity of life and what all of this really meant. And so those are really unique perspectives that I deeply connect with. And this has had, of course, it has changed everything in the course of my life. So it has impacted everything for me. But I think the biggest thing as far as giving advice on navigating chronic illness, as simple and silly as it can sound, taking one step and one day at a time, is the approach that I've done through all of this. Because even to this day, if I step outside of myself and look big picture of my life, it's too overwhelming of thinking I have 2 transplants. They're likely not going to last forever. I navigate epilepsy and scoliosis issues. And if you start doing that, you're just piling all of it on, and you're not going to be able to take that next step. So I think what's really helped me mentally is that approach to chronic illness, and really taking my pain and turning it into purpose. And that's what I've done with patient advocacy, is saying, okay, I've gone through all of this, but how can I channel it into something meaningful? It like flips the script. It's like, I don't think so, life. You're not going to let me look at this and be sad and bitter about it. It's like,
Wow.
instead, now have these incredible opportunities. I've met the most extraordinary people in the field of transplantation. And I think transplant is a really special community because you're dealing with the fragility of life. You're seeing people that are on death's doorstep and get their health restored because of the selflessness and kindness of individuals. So it's like human kindness amplified to just enormity. And I think when you're wrapped up in that, you are a changed person. So if you're in the field and contributing to it, you never want to leave the field because you see the impact that you're having. And then if you're personally impacted or your loved ones are surrounded by it, you see the ripple effect of good that comes from all of this. So as hard as this has been, the impact has been enormous, but I feel Kristen knows this one. I can reframe anything. Terrible happens, and my gift is reframing. I can like just turn it around and be like, well, this happened because I probably annoy my friends. But that has what has helped me through this. So I think instead of looking at it as it has been tons of mental health challenges, but I think it's how I've been able to flip that and use that into turn it into action of, I say that we always feel like with our donors, how do we say thank you to them? And I feel like I say thank you through action. So I really feel like I completely agree with everything Kristen said. And I feel like we need to feel our emotions and then be able to move through them and move on. And that's something that Noah taught me because I loved meeting Kristen and starting to dig into mental health support because that was a space I didn't really talk about because I had no choice being younger, but like, I just need to get through this and move on. And I saw the way it impacted my parents. So I didn't talk about it because I could see how just hard it was for them. So I didn't want to make it harder. Yeah. So I think I internalized a lot and I've realized the importance of us expressing our emotions. And my husband kind of taught me that and gave me the space to do that of like, hey, yeah, this is hard and it's okay for you to not be happy about all of this. It's like, so we need to feel it. We need to express it, but we need to be able to move on and have healthy outlets. Like Kristen said, trash TV, which is funny. We need these healthy escapes of like, oh my God, this is so much. So what are we going to do to escape this, but in a healthy way? So I love this topic because I think we can feel very isolated as transplant recipients and living immunosuppressed, and anyone going through challenges, it can feel very isolating. So it's really important for us to be authentic and vulnerable and talk about this and say, how can we live well alongside chronic illness? Because it's unfortunately not going anywhere. So we need to be partners with it and say, how can we walk along this journey with it and still live a fulfilling and productive and joyful life?
Yeah, the more you push it away, the harder and the more the internal emotions are going to build up. So I really just emphasize what Valen said. The feeling it is important, recognizing that it's normal to have reactions of like, I'm thankful, but I'm also a little annoyed today that I have to do these extra things. But we can't stay there forever. You just can't stay in that spot forever. Yeah. But it's okay to be there periodically and then to find healthy coping mechanisms.
Wow. Great direction for all of us, honestly. And there's so many things. There's so much I want to ask you guys, and I got to make sure I keep this going in the right direction. But you said something, Valen, like doing. I've heard. I'll share this with my clients a lot, where we need to learn to do the hard days well. And for you guys, it's probably every day. But it seems like you guys, that's what you've done through this process is you've done whatever you had to do to figure out how to do these difficult days well. Is that accurate?
Oh, I love that concept because it immediately took me to a hospital day. And I thought to myself, how do I do that day well? Like what do I do to step up in that hard day? I love that perspective because we need to that's almost when we need to shine. And I think my husband is so good in challenging conversations or in challenging situations too. But it's like, how do we step up in those experiences? Because really, I think those qualities help us throughout our entire life. Can you think of that, Kristen? I think of
What came up for me was like post transplant, which was not that long ago, and I was just felt terrible, even though I'm healing. So, but I also, just dealing with side effects from these new medications that my body's like, what? And then, they just took all these things out of my body and put a bunch of stuff in. So I'm like recovering, and I'm on the couch, and I'm like, I'm tired. I can't, get up and walk around the house the way I, normally could. So I was just really in a bad mood, and I was like, okay, you're in a bad mood. It feels like it's never going to end. What do I need to do? Go outside. So I went outside, got on the hammock, and I called a friend, and I, got distracted for 15 or 20 minutes. And so I guess that's maybe some examples of like, okay, I let myself feel it. I talked to myself, and then I said, okay, what do I need to do? Because this isn't going to stop. And I think having some experiences of other, I had a couple of other surgeries and different things like that. And I knew that, and then I've had hard things happen in life like we all have had, like my parents getting a divorce, different things like that. And I was like, okay, you got through that. It was awful for a good 2 or 3 months. And then look where you are now. So I think, and that's like solution focused kind of, it's like finding exceptions, solution focused therapy at the same time. But when it comes down to it, just being kind to yourself, knowing that you're not necessarily going to be here forever. And what are the healthy coping mechanisms that I don't feel like doing right now because I really just want to be mad. But I'll be mad for about 15 more minutes. And then I'm going to call my friend that makes me laugh.
Right. And then maybe turn on some more trash TV.
Yes, and then definitely turn on and like just kind of disconnect for a second, and then like get built up for when my daughter is home, and I don't want to be laying on the couch crying. Not that that's always a bad thing, but I don't want to do it every day, and I want to give her an example that we can get through hard things.
Yeah, I think anybody going through any challenges, the hard thing is when we feel that it became out of our control. I think when we feel like we've lost control of the situation, that's when it's really challenging. So if I think to your sentiment and I go back to like, who am I on a hospital day? Like those are like worst days for us. So what do I do? How do I step up on those days? And I think feeling empowered in my care and that I am playing a part in that day and have a role and that it's not out of my control. And so sometimes I do that just in little ways. Like if the nurse comes in and gives me a tub of pills instead of like telling me what each one is, and I'm like, there's no way I'm taking medicine without knowing what it is. I go on Pill Finder and I'm like, I have control over this situation. I will look up every pill. I will know what it is. And, in the hospital, you even realize the small steps matter because you see that just sitting up in a chair is progress. Walking down the hall is progress. So I think that even teaches you the breaking life down into small bite-sized pieces of what you have to do. And Kristen and I know this, I would not survive without humor. Like even on the darkest days in the hospital, my parents and I and Noah and I, we can muster up something funny. Like we can do something to just get us to laugh and escape for a little bit.
Yeah, wow. I like memes. I like to send memes to people. Anyway, I think humor is really important, and just making the serious, still recognizing that it's serious, but also like just there are more aspects to life than our illness. It doesn't define who we are. It is a piece and it can influence who we are, but it doesn't define us.
I love that, humor. Oh, go ahead, Valen.
I think the more we go through chronic issues and health hiccups and we get through them, almost the more confidence it's given me. I don't want to speak for you, Kristen, but I'm almost like, okay, well, I've gone through that. So I have,
totally.
I know that something else, you live with that sort of looming thing that, something else can be right around the bend. And that's a hard thing to sort of live with. But also, like, oh my gosh, I've been through the whole routine of the ER and I've been through surgeries and I know what recovery is like. And I have the capability and the strength to do that. But still, even when you go through things, sometimes it's hard to see the other side of it. So that's why I think it's important to see others successfully endure something that you're headed into so that you can see that hope on the other side of it.
Yeah.
Personally, also, because my experience was, a good 20 years of kind of being on the other side of not being a pre-transplant patient, but not a transplant patient, and then now being on the other, being a transplant patient, like it's increased my empathy because I, lived my life without a lot of worries and concerns. I mean, I had worries and concerns, but they're just different from the ones that I have now. And so it's given me a lot of empathy, a reminder to think about like the lens of other folks, a deeper experience of what it's like maybe to be an other, or it should be. And those things, like for me as a therapist, help me to be better in my job and as an educator. But also just like I want to be, that I want to take those things. I wish I didn't have to learn them, but, I want to take what I can from the experience. And so that's really been an interesting dynamic for me this past year is like, okay, this, like, I kind of understand this more, and I have more empathy and more passion to to stand up for people that may not have a voice. So.
Wow. I love that. Well, that kind of segues into my next question, and Valen, you mentioned this, like you turning pain into purpose, and you two have obviously, you've cultivated this really cool friendship. And it really was like a godsend, if you will, that got you two together. And now you guys are doing this podcast called Unpacking the Gift of Life. And if there's two people on the planet that could talk about the gift of life, it's you two. So why don't you guys tell our listeners why you guys decided to do this podcast? What are you hoping to get from this, and and what the whole meaning behind this for you guys?
I think I'm always looking to fill the gaps for our community as far as the education and the support that's needed. And I feel like transplant is a one-day surgery, and then it's lifelong of living immunosuppressed. And I think there's a lot of support needed for trying to navigate this journey and live the best quality of life that we can. And I felt like there needed to be a space for very authentic conversations. But I also didn't just want us to be just talking about experiences. I wanted it that somebody would listen and feel seen, but also empowered. So I wanted it to be a very educational space as well. And it felt like a natural fit for Cristen and I to co-host it because I really appreciated her firsthand experiences and also her professional experience to be able to give that education to our listeners. So we really wanted to create a podcast with season 1. The common thread is emotional well-being along this journey, because that support hasn't been brought to me in my medical care. I went through 2 transplant evaluations, and that is not a component of it, of just having that availability of seeing a counselor or having that support. So I wanted this to be a place that people could go. And some of the topics that we discuss are living well alongside chronic illness. We talk about the importance of advocating in healthcare and social environments, and also within the conversations that we have within ourselves, which is very important. And also topics like family planning, which I'm really proud of that episode because we do 3 different perspectives. Cristen had a child pre-transplant. We bring on a dear friend who had a child post-transplant, and I represent the community not having children. So we do all aspects, and I think that that's really something that is important to be highlighted in our community. And, we hope, like you said, the gift of life, we all are fortunate to have the gift of life. So in addition to creating this for the kidney and transplant and chronic illness community, I feel like it's something anyone could tune into and be inspired by it. At least that's what I'm hoping from it. And we really hope that the medical field will tune in as well, because it gives them a deeper insight into who they're caring for.
Yeah. Wow. I wanted to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, good.
So we worked really, really hard on the podcast even beforehand in the planning, and we tossed back and forth like what should it be the name of the, what do we want to communicate? And so I want to highlight the word unpacking in the title, Unpacking the Gift of Life, because a lot of times the message is sent that yes, gift of life, which it is definitely a gift of life. And we are so thankful to have this because it keeps us alive. And also it's not like a gift that you just open and it's like what you've always dreamed of and what you've always wanted. It's
Right.
a gift that, requires unpacking the goods, the wonderful things, the challenges, the hard parts, the transitions. So really it's about unpacking and not just accepting without any any thought. It's about unpacking all that comes in with having a chronic illness and having a transplant. So I just think that's important that we were really intentional about that because, we're humans and we have lots of emotions and lots of, thoughts about things. And to say that we're just going to always think about this in one direction, in one way is not mostly accurate in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I like that metaphor of like we're unpacking it, and in some ways, like as you unpack it, it gets lighter. It gets lighter, and so there's a lot of hope built into that as well.
Beautifully said. No, I think it's fantastic. You guys are doing this. I think you guys are both really, really smart. I'm
there's another
I'm the dumb one on the podcast today with you guys. No, I say that not even jokingly. And when I say smart, I mean you guys are very well informed. Valen, I've always been so impressed with you through this the challenges and being an advocate and really trying to make a difference. You have learned so much, and I think your podcast is going to be such a great platform for people to, like you said, learn and understand better. And you even said you hope the medical community will tune in because they're going to learn so much from two people who are actually been through all of this. And here's what we've learned through the process. And so I think because of that, your awareness and your authenticity is going to really resonate, not just with them, but I'm inspired sitting here, even though I haven't gone through what you've gone through, but I've been through my own challenges, right? Of being a drug addict and alcoholic and overcoming that and the gift of life. I totally agree. And then also, Kristen, I love the metaphor of unpacking because there is a lot to unpack. Right. So I don't know. You guys you're just very well spoken. Obviously there couldn't be two better people to do what you guys are doing.
Thank you. That means so much coming from you, Todd. Really, thank you.
Yeah, it really blows my mind. Part of that unpacking is you find more gifts within the gift, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, Kristen, you said something really cool that really sparked something in my mind. You said you have learned empathy on a level you never would have learned on the level you understand it now because of what you've gone through. So I'd like to ask both of you, and what are a couple things that you feel like really you have learned that you never would have understood or learned had you not gone through this?
Well, so I'm thinking about on the podcast, we have we end each episode with like a silver lining, not meaning that everything's going to always turn out perfect, but that we always want to be thinking about hope. And what comes up for me is that how powerful a simple acknowledgement, a validation of what you're experiencing, a doctor's kind word, feeling like you're important and you matter. And I'm new of those things. And I think we all cognitively know those things, but to actually feel them when you're extremely vulnerable, extremely scared. And your doctor puts their hand on you and is like, you're going to be okay. Or you're really brave, just those types of things. That's one thing that I've the visceral experience of how community and care impacts you.
Great. Thanks for sharing that, Kristen. Valen?
I wholeheartedly agree. I think we wake up every day never forgetting the power of kindness and selflessness and the fact that we're alive today because someone else saying yes to organ donation.
Right.
So living with that is such a gift and so empowering. So I think just the continual acts of kindness that I've received or see in my life is extremely impactful and carries me through. Transplantation, there are so many people that take part in one transplant, and that's an amazing thing to be a part of and witness of. It's not just the donor, it's the surgeons, the nurses. I love thinking that there was a pilot that flew my liver to my transplant center. So just the vision of that somebody woke up that day and got in a plane and flew my liver. Like there's just, I think when you just realize, I don't know, how we're all connected, the power of we, that just together amplified and we're better than individually. Just there's so many life lessons that I have learned that has shaped me into the person I am today. But I think also just that my heart is always open for continual learning. And that's a beautiful feeling of like, okay, give it to me. Like, I know I don't know what's coming. I have no idea, but just embracing that, and really on a like individual human level of going through health issues. I think I've really learned a lot of lessons of how we underestimate how adaptable we are to change. I mean, my life has just been thrown around of in a split second, get extremely ill, go to the hospital when I had all these plans of doing this and everything changes. But we can adapt. We can adapt to being transplant recipients. We can adapt to a new life of chronic illness, and we can do it well, but we can't do it by ourselves. It really does take the support of our caregivers and loved ones. And also, I just think the power of resilience. It amazes me how resilient we are as human beings, both physically and mentally. And it's, if I go back to seeing my 10-year-old self who was shy and didn't have many friends and diagnosed with this chronic illness, and to think of where I am today of being honored to be a voice for our community and doing the work that I'm doing, I wouldn't have thought I would have evolved into an outspoken, strong, healthy woman. And so I think that the possibilities and what it's shown me and allowed me to grow into who I am today has been a beautiful thing.
Dang, wow. I have this philosophy that life happens for us. The good, the bad, everything. And I think we can learn from all of these trials and challenges, and even, the good and the bad times. And you truly, both of you are examples of that. And I love what you guys just said. It was very inspiring. I think like you talked about kids, how kids are amazing. I'll often say to people that I'm working with, I think people overall are just astonishing. Like you said, the things we can do, the things we can go through and still prevail and overcome, it just astonishes me. Like there are no limits, really, honestly. I mean, I know there's limits, but there's no limits to how we can handle and adapt, like you said, Valen, and really go out and make a huge difference in this world, just like you two guys are doing and will continue to do so. And so it's just, I don't know, it's amazing to watch and hear what you guys are doing. And I think people listening to this go, man, how are these two they sound so healthy. They sound so happy. They sound like mentally spot on where they should be. I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. I just think, I hope you guys know that I really think you guys are going to do so much good with this podcast and continue to build on the things that you're doing. I really do.
Thank you. Yeah. It takes intentionality to sound this healthy and to be in these spaces. So for those of you who might not be feeling that all the time, it's not that this is just, we got lucky. There are days that are harder than other days for sure. And it's just putting one foot in front of the other. And I am so thankful that this experience gives me a path to living more intentionally and to not worrying about some of the things that maybe I worried about when I was younger or before the transplant and different things like that. So it's not like I'm so thankful, and it has taken work and intentionality. So, it feels great to hear that. That's what we want. We want to share that, that going through hard times there doesn't mean that your life is going to not be meaningful, not be purposeful, not be full of laughter. That's what the message I want to send.
Yeah, and I think representing both sides of that, because of course today we're fortunate to have a healthy day, not in the hospital. We sound good, we feel good, those things. But that's not what every day has looked like in our world. We've had scary days, the waiting for a life-saving call for a transplant. So we want to be able to represent the community at large so that they know we've been there and they can get through it. And I think that's the whole important thing about having these authentic conversations is that so there isn't a false representation of this, because the miracle of transplantation is you can look at us and it looks like we haven't been through transplant or anything. That's the beauty of it. But I think it's how do we get through the responsibilities and navigate the lifelong journey of what that entails afterwards.
And case in point, I spent the weekend getting 3 days of infusions because I developed COVID. And so this has not been a week of a lot of feeling great. And, this has been a week of trying to navigate, how do I get this treatment? I got to drive to it and I got to do these things. And I don't feel well. But I got it done and I'm here today and I'm able to say, you know what, that was not fun. I did it. And what's coming up next and how can I, stay positive, because that's the way I want to live my life.
Yeah. And I think staying grounded in gratitude has really helped me. But I think for individuals struggling, it's really important to find a purpose and what you're fighting for, to hold on for that during those really hard times. What are you, I know Kristen is an incredible mom and her daughter is such an anchor for her and fights so hard for her. And when I was headed into liver transplant, I was just holding on to being able to still be alive for my husband, Noah, and be a healthy woman and those type of things. So even me being able to think of what I wanted in the future, that imagery of this is what I want to be, and I'm fighting for that. So it just is important for us to have those goals and those reasons of why we're getting up and continuing to fight each day.
Yeah, I love it. Very well said, guys. I love it. If there's someone, and you guys have already said some great advice for all of us, but I'm going to make it a little more specific. If there's someone listening to, and this is a question for both of you, and they're listening and they're in a dark place and they are struggling, whether it's with their mental health or they have a physical situation they're going through, and they're just feeling like they can't move on and they don't know how to get out of it, what advice would you give that one person right now listening to you? We'll start with Kristen.
Great. Well, first of all, I want to normalize that, if you have a diagnosis of depression, that you're it's going to feel like that you're not experiencing something that's out of the box, or as much as you may feel like you are just, there's no way out. That's what your brain is telling you. And that is very normal. And depression is also research shows that depression is really challenging. And also there's a lot of ways to, through therapy, through other different things, it's also really something that can be worked through. And so I just want to first normalize, say, it's okay that you feel like this, and that's what happens. And that's, but sometimes our feelings and our thoughts are not the truth for the rest of our lives. And so being able to say, okay, what is the best resource for me right now? I don't feel like doing a lot of things, but what's one thing that I can do next? What's the next thing that I can do that's helpful? And then moving from there. Is it calling a person? Is it stepping outside? Is it calling my transplant team and asking for a referral to counseling? Is it reading an inspirational book? What is that? And that first step. And so I think that is if you're in a dark spot, you are not alone. You are loved. You are important. You matter. And your brain's playing some tricks on you. And so hopefully you can take one step that's the easiest one that is possible, and just checking in with your doctors and being open to there's lots of Facebook groups for people to have support. find support. There's also peer mentoring through programs that is free, like the PKD Foundation. So looking for resources that fit the context you're in.
Yeah, well said. Valen?
I just keep thinking of the sentiment that life is worth fighting for.
Mm.
Like just holding on to that, because that's what I always think when I go through another challenge. It's like, I have not lost my zest for life and my desire to be here. And that empowers me through health issues. So for those individuals in a dark place of just trying to hold on, that it's worth fighting for. And something that I think is really easy to do right now in our society, I'm guilty of it myself, is comparing ourselves to others. And when we're in a dark place, that's like the worst thing. So if you're struggling, do not compare yourself to anyone else. That could potentially make you feel even worse in your struggle. Just try and find empowerment that you're capable and that you can get through it and that it's worth fighting for.
Wow. Well said. I love that. And I agree with both of you. And thank you for sharing your insights on that, because I know people are tuning in who are struggling. So I'm so grateful that you guys are being vulnerable right now and sharing your thoughts on that, because it's really going to help someone today, including myself, by the way. If someone wants to listen, I'll ask Valen this first, wants to follow your podcast, learn more about you, Valen, learn more about your advocacy work and all that stuff, what would be the best way for someone to do that?
Yes, I would love for people to visit my website, which is valenkeefer.com, and that's ValenKeefer.com. On there, they can learn about my advocacy, they can listen to our podcast, and they can reach out to me directly, and I'd love to hear from everyone.
Love that. How about you, Kristen?
Well, I am, a mom right now and a professor, and I don't have my own website. Okay. But I'm also open to people reaching out and would love to hear from you. And so my work is right now I'm not in private practice because I've been having a transplant, a little bit busy. But I do work with my students, and I'm looking forward to a new quarter this fall. And one of the things that I'm really inspired to do is to help future therapists have a context for working with transplant patients, because it's not something that is part of the curriculum all the time. And
right.
So I'm just integrating that into the other things. But yes, I'm hopefully after I've recovered, for a while, I'm going to continue doing my research in mental health, the intersection between mental health and chronic illness. So maybe there'll be something coming in the future. And you can always find me through Valen.
Yes.
You can say, hey, Valen, can you say hi to Kristen for me?
Okay, I guess we'll go that route.
I just don't have like a social media kind of thing.
That's okay. Hey, you're we're all jealous that you are in that situation, actually.
Great.
Right?
Yeah.
Well,
I'm sure it can be a lot of responsibility.
For sure. Well, I will, obviously, I'll put your website on the show notes and links and stuff like that as much as I can there, so people can get right to you. And then if you have a question for Kristen, just ask Valen.
Sorry, Valen. More work, Kristen.
No, I'm sorry.
Actually,
I'm happy. I don't know how you would get in touch with me.
I know. It's all good.
To talk to you.
No, I know you are. No, you guys, this was what a fantastic interview. You guys were amazing. So easy to talk to. Such energy you guys, just high level energy today. Like you said, Valen, this is one of those good days, and I'm so glad that you guys were both able to make it. What a blessing for all of us to hear your story today. I can't wait for this to go live and for our listeners to hear your inspiring words. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for being willing to be vulnerable today and come on my show and help us out here today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your continued support, and you're just such a special and kind friend. So thank you. This means a lot to us.
Yes, for sure. And I'm so glad to be a part of what you're doing. So thank you.
You bet. Well, thank you guys. And it was my blessing today. So thank you. And there you go, folks. I told you today was going to be an amazing interview. with Valen Keefer and Cristen Wathen. They're amazing individuals. Please reach out to them. Please look up what they're doing. If you need help, they're there. You can ask them any questions. If you want to ask me a question as well, please do. If you know someone who's struggling, and it doesn't have to be with obviously something physical or similar to what they're even going through, anyone would be inspired by their words today. So please share the link to this episode to all of them, to all your family. And I know you guys do that. And again, thanks to my sponsors. I couldn't do it without you guys. I really appreciate you so much. And I love you guys for tuning in week after week. It really makes a difference in the lives of so many. So I love you guys. And then one last thank you to Kristen and Valen. Thank you guys. You guys are the best.
Thank you so much.
You.
All right. Till next time, everyone.